Hello, hello. Get rid of this music. All right, here we go. Another live chat. We are episode number 38. We've come a long way. For those of you joining for the first time or watching the replay, leave a comment or leave a note. Let me know where you're joining from so that I can give you a shout out. And also, just a quick update, this is my monthly live chat that is designed to provide some advice from my own personal experiences and things that I've gone through, things that I have learned, and hopefully will benefit you as well. These are lessons I've learned through life, through dance, through coaching, through speaking, and many other areas of my life. And actually, we're going to be talking a lot about transference today, which is about taking skills from one area and extending it to another. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Magna Gopal. I have been dancing for over 20 years, traveling, teaching around the world. Now my focus has been more on public speaking and coaching, empowerment coaching, leadership, and communications coaching. And the goal of this live chat is to provide you all with kind of free advice and ideally address some of the issues that you are going through as well. Now, many people tend to send me questions in private messages or emails or through conversations with my clients. And I realize that many of these lessons can be applied across life, and why not share them with everybody as well? If you want to know an easy way to connect with me, you can always reach out to me from my website, magnagopal.com. And also to support the channel, just hit subscribe. Or if you're feeling extra generous and you want to get me a coffee, you can click on the link below. So today's topic, but before I say that, wherever you are joining from, I always ask the city, the country, so I can give you a shout out. It's always a pleasure to see where people are from. And of course, if you are even joining and watching this as a replay, leave a comment and I'll be sure to reply to you there. But if you are joining live, let me know where you're joining from so I can give you a shout out. And then we shall get into today's topic. And also, if you want to send your own questions, you can always reach out to me on social media at Magna Gopal or via my website, magnagopal.com. If you want to be a little bit more detailed with whatever it is that we're discussing today and you have certain personal feedback or personal questions, the feedback form is the best way to do that. Just go to magnagopal.com/feedback. And we have Wade from Queens, New York, Plamena from Munich, Little Sainty from Tampa. Hello, hello. I hope today's live chat is going to be really useful to you. I have struggled with this personally in the past, and when I started to apply what I like to call a transference mindset, everything became much, much easier. So let's talk about this, okay? First of all, I mean, a question to whoever's here and or whoever's watching the replay. Have you ever kind of talked yourself out of trying something new because it was too foreign or seemed too difficult or felt like it was way outside of your comfort zone, like where you really felt like a total beginner? I'd be interested to know what or what your experiences are. And then same thing kind of applies. Like, how do you approach learning something new, or trying something new, like where you really don't feel like this is your comfort zone? Because for me, I've had that many times in my life, and the challenge has always been that there are areas in my life where I feel like I'm thriving, I feel confident, I feel like I know everything. And then I jump into something new and I feel like I'm starting from scratch. Where I'm like, "Well, what do I do here? How do I start? Where do I start? What are the first steps that I need to take? And what do I need to continue doing to kind of expand my competency in this area?" And many times I have felt like I was reinventing the wheel, repeating that beginner cycle, like starting from scratch with something I had no clue about and I didn't know what to do, and I was leaving it to other people to guide me. And if there was no guidance, then, well, my growth was a little bit stagnant or very slow. So I'm curious for all of you, where have you felt like a beginner? Or how do you view things that are new? Like, do you feel stuck? Do you feel concerned? Do you have some kind of fear in approaching something new? And I always have to remember that there is a delay in the comments. Dance would be one of those things for me. And I will go through a couple of examples that hopefully you can start to apply for yourself. So when it comes to learning something new, we tend to kind of compartmentalize it. We say, okay, this is something that is different from everything else I've done. This is something that is unique from the other experiences that I've had. And as a result, I need to figure it out from scratch. A couple of comments here. Wade, I don't have enough hands to raise. I'm always looking for a way out before trying something brand new. Little Sainty, keeping it simple like salsa for a new dance move or a pattern. It's easy to learn in class, but hard to execute at socials. Great examples. So the real beauty in life is when you can start to find patterns, right? When you can see something different, where it's very easy for us to say, well, that's very different from something else that I've experienced or that I've seen. But instead of focusing and honing in on those differences, you start to look at the commonalities. You start to find the parallels and you start to use those parallels to develop yourself. So for example, let's say it's a habit that you have. Where else could you extend that habit? How did you build that habit? How could you use that to build a new habit? Maybe it's confidence, right? In one area, you feel really confident in one area. How can you extend it to another? Or maybe it's your presence in a certain situation. How could you extend that to a different situation? Or maybe it's a system or a process that you use to work on one project, and how could you extend it to something else? Or it's a physical ability. How can you use your knowledge of yourself and your body in one area to another? Or maybe it's a quality like discipline or teamwork or determination and perseverance. How can you apply that? Right? So let's talk dance real quick first. One of the most interesting things that I've experienced is how many dancers I've worked with, how many students I've worked with who do not feel confident, right? Who don't feel like they have the right presence, the right confidence, the right posture when it comes to dance. Yet, whenever I go diving into who they are and what they've done in their life, because I very rarely work with little kids, I'm usually working with adults. When I go into their lives and their life experiences, they have a lot of experiences. So one student of mine is a litigator, right? So a lawyer who speaks in front of a judge, who goes to court and argues on behalf of her client or against as a prosecution. Okay, so they are in court. Now, If we've ever watched TV shows or even the news, you know you can't stand up in court and expect a judge to listen to you or believe you, or a jury to believe you if you're kind of hunched over and talking into the ground and speaking very softly, right? So you already have experience, many years of experience in that career of presenting yourself a certain way with confidence. Even if you don't know, even if you're not certain that you can win, you still approach that moment, that situation with confidence. Now, can we extend that to dance? Can we extend that posture alone to dance? I mean, a big part of dance is about the posture that you have, a big part of presenting an idea, which is what we do in dance, but what we do in life in general, whether it is in a work situation, whether you're speaking publicly, whether you're talking to friends, you are presenting your ideas, okay? Some form of an idea. You're presenting your personal life, your story, your idea, your argument. And so when you're already got this experience in another area of your life, why not bring that back into a new area? So instead of looking at dance and saying, I don't know this and I don't feel confident and I'm not sure what my posture should be, what is what is a confident posture? What could I draw from in my life? What is another experience? I had another student who's in physical therapy. Their understanding of the body, okay, is much, much deeper than mine. I did not study the body to get to where I am in dance. And yet, this person felt very uncomfortable when it came to dance movements, even though I am pretty certain that he knew the movements better than even the instructors did, like the real anatomy of the movement, the physical movement, better than the instructors did themselves. And yet, he wasn't transferring that knowledge from his 20 plus year career, or actually even more than that, into the dance environment, right? So that is a very simple example of what we could be transferring. One of the tips that I often give to my students for presence and for posture is just imagine that you're hosting a party. Right? You don't even need to have years and years of experience in a certain career. Just imagine that you're hosting a party. How would you invite other people that are walking through your door? Would you be hunched over looking down and saying, welcome? Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. Or would you have your nose held up in the air and say, oh, yeah, you should feel fortunate that you're here? Or would you be welcoming? Would you have a posture of confidence that is still compassionate to your guests? And how would you greet them? That simple mindset shift of saying, I've done that before and this is how I did it. Well, why not use that to enhance my confidence and my presence on the dance floor? Same thing would apply to developing rapport with other people. When we meet strangers, one of the reasons I feel pretty confident, when I am talking to anybody is because I use a lot of the things that I have learned on the dance floor to interact with people who are not dancers. Not to say that I'm, jumping and hugging people and then grabbing them and holding them in an embrace, because that's what we do in the dance floor. But it's more about how I build that rapport with complete strangers on the dance floor. I end up dancing or talking with people I've never met before. And when I approach them or when they approach me, how do I react to them? Am I instantly fearful and kind of standoffish to those people? Or am I greeting them with a smile? Something as simple as that helps build rapport on the dance floor in the dance community. So why would it not work somewhere else? And maybe some things don't work, but why not try? Why look at meeting or interacting with a complete stranger and saying, I don't know how to do this. I've never really talked to a stranger, and I don't know this person. I don't know what we have in common. I'm stuck. I have to figure this out from scratch. You don't. You actually have lots of experience because you're doing it all the time. And maybe it's not even dance. Forget the dance aspect of it. How do you greet your friends? Do you greet your friends with a frowning face, or do you typically smile when you greet them? Is your body language closed and your arms are crossed and folded across your chest, or are they open? Are you hunched over, or are you standing tall because you feel comfortable? Right? Why not extend those qualities to a new environment where you are dealing with somebody new? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'll read them out as as they come. And Michael from Boston, hello again. Wade, this is a gold mine of interesting tips to apply. Keep it coming. All right. So let's talk about dance itself, okay? Since we're many of us are dancers, we've got that experience with salsa. I want to relate also the dance aspect of it to perhaps learning a new dance. I remember West Coast swing, right? I've danced it a few times. I would not say I'm an expert at all. I can follow pretty well, but I remember I went to an event, and this was after attending maybe two or three socials, local socials, and not completely understanding the dance at all. But I attended an event. I decided to go all in, and yes, it's a completely new dance. Now, let's say bachata to salsa. We're still kind of working with that 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So maybe that's like, oh yeah, that's easy. Now we're just not going forward and back. We're kind of going side to side. But with West Coast swing, if you're familiar with it, there are different counts. There are patterns that are 6 counts, or 8 counts, or 12 counts. I don't even know, but they vary. And there's this triple step that's in there. Well, a triple step is very close to cha cha cha. So that was something that I remembered, and that was something I brought into play. Now, the rest of the steps, I could not bring my dance technique as I would use salsa timing to bachata timing. I could not really bring that into the West Coast swing dance. But what could I bring? I mean, yes, it's a brand new dance. Yeah, I've never danced it, or I've not danced it for the same amount of time that I've danced salsa, 20 plus years. West Coast swing, it was like a couple of months. But what could I bring from the dance that I feel confident in, that I know I have experience in and knowledge in? Connection, right? What is the parallel there between those dances? Well, there's an elastic connection, which we do often in dance. We break back, we come forward. We break back, we come forward. West Coast swing has a very similar pattern to it. There is the handhold connection. There's tension and resistance that needs to exist for those patterns to take place. Salsa has the same. So, yes, it was completely a new dance, new music, completely different partners, and their level of experience was in this dance was much higher than mine in that dance. But there were skills that I could transfer over from salsa to this new dance. So if you're learning a new dance, how are you approaching it? Do you have any other dance forms that you could relate to? And maybe it's not even a dance form. Perhaps it's some other fitness, some other activity. Let's say sports, right? Or let's go into boxing. I like boxing because I use that as a reference, a big reference for dance lessons, right? Boxing. How do you generate power? Do you just throw your hand and hope that it hits hard and lands hard? You generate power from the ground up. A good boxer knows how to connect with the floor and then drive that power and help spiral through the hips into a punch. Salsa is not, hopefully, a fighting dance for you. And hopefully you're not punching anybody, at least not intentionally. I know I've gotten hit many times on the dance floor. But salsa's got the same concept. Most dances, most physical arts or sports or anything athletic has a similar concept. You power from the ground up. How can you use that knowledge to the dance form? You know, so there are many skills, there are many things that relate from one area to another. Um, I'll give another example aside from dance, which is more about like systems and processes. And this one is a big one. This one might apply to you in dance, but I think it would apply to you in other areas of life. We've all, as we've grown older, developed systems and processes to tackle the projects that we have at hand, the things that we need to attend to. But are we using those systems and processes across the board, or are we always reinventing the wheel and trying to find a way to do something from scratch? My website, I designed my own website. I used to outsource that to somebody else, a developer, but I really did not enjoy the lag time between me making a request, the developer receiving that request, acting on that request, me seeing it, giving feedback, and then improvements. It was just too long of a process. And I thought, look, if I want to be adding and constantly changing things on my website, I should learn how to do it. That is out of my comfort zone. Okay. That is the initial approach, the initial mindset I had when thinking about my website was I've never developed a website. I've never designed a website. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't know what to do. Right. This feels really nerve-wracking. So what did I do instead? Instead of just focusing on how different this project was from everything else I did, I looked at this as a project. And as any project, there's some things you need to identify. What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? What are the steps that you need to take to achieve that goal? What can be measured? How will you know that this is right? How do you test it in different environments? And I went back to my dance seminars. The first time I started doing dance seminars versus just teaching dance moves, and I actually had, 1 to 2 hours a talking seminar, I was thinking, how do I structure this in a way that makes sense to my students? I can't just write everything out and figure out what I need to say based on that in just one long text document. So I used to use mind maps to work out my seminars. I used to put all my ideas in the mind map and then group those ideas based on like what was I actually discussing here, and then structure those ideas in an order that made sense, that was easy to follow. And that helped me understand what I wanted to deliver, the goal I wanted to achieve by the end of my workshop, what I wanted my students to understand by the end of that workshop. So I had a project plan for that little, whatever, little 1 to 2 hour seminar. I had a plan there. And I used the same thing with my website. Like, what are the things that I want to display on each page? Or what are all the things that I want to display on my website? What content, what information do I want? Put it all there. Well, now where do these things go? Where do they make sense? Oh, well, this would make sense on this page, or this would make sense on that page. Okay, now what is the order of these things? And then breaking down, what do I need to start to work on? Right. So I was able to use a system from something completely different to something brand new to me. And instead of feeling like I was working outside of my comfort zone, I just extended it. I have developed something from scratch, different, sure, but I've developed something from scratch. Now I'm trying to do the same thing here. What are the things that can assist me in this new area so that it doesn't feel as foreign and it doesn't feel as nerve-wracking as it could be? Richie in the house, yeah. Wade said, this makes me think how confident I am when trying out a new dance because of my training in salsa. I can weed out what doesn't serve me because I went through it in my first dance experience with salsa. Yep, even learning. That is a great approach. When let's go back to dance. When we pick up dance, salsa dancing, we are learning tons of things, right? We are learning styling, we're learning footwork and shines and patterns and um, a lot of content comes our way because we are just going to a class to learn from an instructor and we're just taking whatever they give us. And many times the instructors might be moving through things very quickly. And so maybe we don't have that development of our fundamentals. And we are later, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the line saying, well, I feel like I've taken all these classes. I feel like I know all of this stuff, and yet I still don't feel very confident in my technique. And then at that point, we're like, go back and revisit the fundamentals so that we can truly understand what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing it. If we're learning a new dance, maybe we approach it differently, the learning process differently. Maybe we say, yes, I'm going to take classes with this instructor, but maybe I'm going to supplement those classes with privates so that I can truly understand what exactly I'm supposed to be doing so that all of this information that I'm learning isn't being built on quicksand. It's being built on a strong, solid foundation. So even something like that is transferable to make your experience and your growth and your progress in one area a better experience, a more efficient experience than it would be otherwise. But we typically don't do this, right? We typically approach everything new as brand new, and we don't transfer the lessons that we've learned from other areas of our life, the skills that we've learned from other areas of our life, the insights that we've learned from other areas of our life. Michael said, dance is outside the comfort zone for me. I had no dance experience before the age of 21. I got convinced to do it from a friend to join the class. I'm happy for it, but it was still scary. And I feel like as one gets older, it becomes harder to try things outside one's comfort zone. Like we feel comfortable in what we're doing and don't want to explore as much. And this is the thing. I love that you pointed that out, Michael. This is the thing. We get scared. Yes, absolutely. As we get older, we feel more confident in our skin and where we are. We kind of compartmentalize our life a little bit by saying, this is my comfort zone. This is who I feel comfortable with, what I feel comfortable doing, how I feel comfortable doing it. And I don't want to explore outside of that because it's too new, like starting from scratch. So what we do remember, right, what we transfer over into our adult age and to new experiences is the fear of when we started something before. And I think that's the wrong thing to remember, the wrong thing to recall and then transfer over. What we should do instead is say, I remember, yes, I was scared when I started that thing way back when, but I'm better at it now, or I'm really good at it now. How did I get here? And how many of those steps could be transferred to this? What are the things that I did? Dance, for example. The reason I personally don't pursue a new dance now is because of time. I understand that my growth in salsa was because of the time I put into it. I was out 5 to 7 nights a week. I was dancing, 4 hours every night. I mean, for the first year, it was every night. I had time. I had a different responsibilities. I don't have that time now. So if I can't make that time, I'd have to adjust my goals. Like I could take on a new dance, but to what extent would I really excel at it? And is that okay? Like, am I just trying to do it for fun and not really become proficient, really truly proficient at it? Then sure, I could pursue something new. But if I really want to get good at it, I know from personal experience the amount of time that I needed to commit to be able to get to the level of experience and expertise I have now in that dance form. At the same time, if I wanted to approach something new, I also know that I don't have to start from all those same steps. There were many things that I did in the very beginning that probably slowed my growth or did not help me progress as quickly as I could have. I didn't take lessons. Today, if I was to take lessons, I also have an idea of what kind of instructor I would want because I understand what is important in the dance to really get good at it. The timing, the technique, to really understand body movement and understand the main concepts of the dance. And if I'm now learning from somebody who's not focusing on that, but is focusing instead on multiple moves and kind of the icing, the cherries on top, but not really the fundamentals of the cake itself, well, I'll switch instructors because I know that me spending all of the time, the limited time that I have on this method of learning will not get me to where I feel like I've actually improved. Michael said, time is definitely a limited resource, especially when you have kids. Now I try to improve my dance with the limited time I have and make the most out of the time that I have. Yeah. Those are things that we have to also consider, but it's all accessible to us. And even without the time, because I feel like some of the time that we spend in our early years was just free time, right? We weren't even that focused and dedicated to what it was that we were doing. We just happened to be doing it. And through the practice and through the time spent, just by the nature of spending time repetitively on something, we improved. Now I feel like we can actually take the lessons that we learned and how we improved, what actually assisted us in improving, and apply that to learning something new to make that process more efficient. There's the Kaizen method, which is all about making small steps, being consistent. Whatever you do, just being consistent and doing something regularly to allow you to improve, versus saying, I'm only going to do this when I have 2 hours of time to dedicate to it. Well, no, if you can make 5 minutes of time available to you, we spend more than 5 minutes doing a bunch of things that probably bring absolutely no value to our lives and who we are and to our personal growth. So we can make 5 minutes. We can take that 5 minutes of time to develop ourselves. So really important points, right? But the idea is what's stopping us from doing something new? And when we think about something new and say, what, this is out of my comfort zone, this I don't know, I don't think I can. Why are we thinking that? Like what are we drawing upon, right? Obviously the fear, there's something new. I'm not sure what it is, and there's always a fear of the unknown. But when we look at learning something new, for example, sport, dance, public speaking, right? I'm often working with clients who are trying to become better speakers. And one of those things that I always refer to with them is, what about the meetings where you're presenting? Don't you show up with a level of confidence? What do you do to prepare for that meeting? Oh, you develop an agenda and an outline. You research those things to make sure that you can support your points. Same thing when it comes to public speaking, except now you're just delivering it on a different topic. You're delivering a presentation on a different topic to a different audience, right? But there are a lot of similarities. And so that's, the idea is to be able to think about our experience, our new experience, and find the parallels with something from our past. Because we have all been true beginners at many things, and we have increased our experience over time. How did we do that? What steps did we take? What mindset did we have in that process that assisted us? What mindset didn't? How can we relate that? Right. And the other, aspect of transference is, it's going back to dance or rather physical movement in general, is using a dominant side to assist a non-dominant side. Right? Like, for example, I remember during COVID, when things were kind of opening up and I used to play sports in the park all the time with friends. I would play football. I played everything, right? Again, did not know many of the sports, but played them anyways because I understood my body. I know how to move. I know how to generate speed. I know how to control momentum and stuff. I've done that in my dancing for over 20 years. So why not just change the method and the purpose of the movement, see if I can apply the same skills? Anyways, with football, I played football a lot. I jammed all of my fingers at one point or another, sprained them. I think this nail completely had like died and grew out and just broke off backwards at one point. So there was one time that I kind of jammed like maybe three fingers in my right hand. So I couldn't even throw with my right hand. And so what I did was, okay, am I not going to play? No, I want to play still. I still have one good hand, even though this is a weaker, non-dominant hand. How can I use what I know with this hand to this hand? Right. So I would basically mirror my hands to themselves and say, this is how I throw the football. Now, when I tried to do that with my left hand, it just felt very uncoordinated. But I practiced and I practiced. And then for that entire week, I was throwing with my left hand, which I've never done before. Right now, not that we're talking about like exploring your outside of your comfort zone like that, but it was a perfect example of being able to use your strength, use your experience and your knowledge in this hand to assist, transfer it over to an area that is not as confident with doing the same movements. Wade said, something about this made me realize to never allow myself to do something the wrong way when I have already learned from it. Yeah, it's really important. And it's very important when it comes to learning something new is shifting your mindset. That's the most important thing. I know we're always talking about growth happens outside of the comfort zone, and it's still happening. It's not like you're avoiding it by saying, I'm not going to leave my comfort zone, I'm going to extend it. You're still doing something new. You're still going to experience growth, but not having that mindset of transference is only hindering your own development, your own speed of moving forward in life, right? So if we are not applying ourselves in this way, then well, we feel like a beginner every time. And that's a good feeling because it's new and it's novel, but it's also nerve-wracking. And it could lead to you giving up because you feel frustrated and you're not progressing as quickly. And then as a beginner, everything's complicated. So by looking at something as completely brand new, we're indirectly overcomplicating it. It doesn't have to be that complicated. A friend of mine was talking about trading and just how to kind of look at numbers and stuff. And when I looked at the screen that he was looking at, I was like, I don't understand any of this. But with a couple of questions and trying to just nail down one stock and understand that particular stock and its movements and why things are like that, I got a better idea of it. Am I proficient at it? No, but I could understand it better because I didn't look at the whole thing and say, I need to understand all of this at once. I need to understand little things because one stock is representative of all the stocks. Every stock has its ups and downs. So if I can try to understand what's happening with one stock, maybe I can start to use that knowledge and apply it to an understanding of others. Same thing with organization. I'm kind of OCD with some things, I'm very organized with a lot of things. So learning something new always takes a similar approach. I'm not happy about it. I'm not lackadaisical about it. I don't approach any new project, regardless of how small it is or how big it is, as, yeah, I'll just work on it and get it done. I always write down my steps. I always organize, like, where am I going to keep all of the information related to this project? I have a folder or a document, or what I use, Notion. I have a place where I can track everything, all my references, all my resources, all my notes, all my reflections, all of my progress, all of my documents that I've created. I have somewhere that I can keep all of that information, right? So I try to avoid overcomplicating things by using things that have helped simplify like processes or a new task or challenge in the past, because it's inefficient, right, to reinvent the wheel. Like, imagine we have all these cars outside and someone's like, ooh, I'm going to make a motorized way of moving forward. And I'm going to create something that rolls. But you're really, like, not taking all of the information that's already present in the world, right? Of the wheel that's already been invented. Like, think back to way back when, like, the wheels were not even perfectly circular. They had, you know, flat sides to them, because that's how people would chop wood. So they just put them together in that way. Eventually, it became a smooth surface because they realized that there was less friction. So that whole concept of reinventing the wheel is inefficient. There are skills that you already have. You've already got systems and ways to do things. You've already experienced something. You've already presented yourself a certain way in a different context. Bringing that into a new hobby or a new pursuit increases your efficiency there. You waste less time working on the things that you really don't need to be working on. And then, of course, if you're not using this approach, you're compartmentalizing, but not in the most efficient way. Your there are things that we want to compartmentalize, like maybe we don't want to mix our work with our personal life, for example, right? We want to be able to separate those two. That's compartmentalization. But how do your personal relationships thrive? Why do they thrive the way they do? And can you extend those same qualities to your work relationships so that you can help them thrive too? And of course, I have to cough, and I hope it's not loud. Of course, the challenge with not transferring skills is it also limits your ability to solve problems. When you think of transferring skills, or you always have that in your mind, you're always thinking of, what else have I done that relates to this? And could it apply? Could it help? Could it fix this? Could it improve this? But if we don't think that way, our ability to solve problems, it decreases. It takes us much longer to solve something simple, right? My approach to conversations in my personal life, I'm very I like to focus on tackling issues as soon as they arise. I don't like to let things fester and linger. But in my past, I used to just kind of blah blah blah, right? But like vent to whoever it was that I had an issue with, and an argument would ensue, and then usually it would exacerbate the problem, right? And the conflict. Now I always think, what exactly is the issue? How can I communicate this in the most compassionate way, the most understanding way? How can I open the door to the other person communicating with me, not getting defensive, but communicating with me? And how can we come to a solution? Now, that's personal life, because my personal relationships mean a lot to me. I want my friends to be there until the day that I die. People in my work situations or other areas where I know that they're temporary relationships, they don't have the same importance, but issues can still arise. So how can I kind of bring that into this equation? So I make sure that I use that same kind of conflict resolution process to any conflict that needs to be resolved. And it allows me to build better relationships in all areas. So I'm not compartmentalizing and saying, well, these people are not going to be around that long. So who cares what the quality of these relationships are? I'm saying I want healthy relationships across the board. What is a healthy relationship? What qualities can I take from that? And how can I apply it to other relationships? You know, and of course, when it comes to something new, if we are constantly looking at something, if we're constantly looking at it as um, reinventing the wheel, right, and leaving our comfort zone and starting from scratch, if that's the mindset we take to everything that's new, then what we're essentially doing is we're not building up our confidence. Right? We know that we've got experience, but we're not really paying attention to that. And so instead of walking into a new situation feeling confident that I can tackle this, that I have done something similar to it before and I can apply that here, I'm feeling completely inadequate and incapable. And that mentality and that mindset and that emotion can really hinder your growth. And you end up losing your motivation. And you could burn out because you're trying to figure things out from scratch. Why? Right? Or you end up giving up. There are many people that I've seen that approach dance from other physical, athletic, or art forms, come to salsa dancing and give up because they're like, I can't get it. Yeah, I could get that, but I can't get this. I'm like, but there's so many parallels. There's so many similarities. Of course you can get this. Just you got to think about the way you got that. What worked for you there? Bring that into the equation here. Edgar says, understand patterns and use it in a positive way. Yep, absolutely. And Wade said, what causes us to add force and pressure during the process of getting into something new and solving problems? If I understand you correctly, it's just fear, right? One of the fears is judgment. Typically, it's that kind of internal fears, imposter syndrome. I'm not capable. I don't know how to do this. I shouldn't be doing it. This is not for me to do. Then the external pressure is other people are going to see that I'm not that good. And it's very different when we are younger versus when we're older, because when we're younger, we're kind of carefree and we don't really have that judgment and that community judgment, rather, right? We don't have people measuring us to a certain standard. When we get older, we have been measured to certain standards, whether it's doing well in school or doing well at work, or if you're really good at salsa dancing, but you're trying a new dance, we've already been measured against something. And then when we go into a new arena, the measurement is probably going to be less, like, naturally, right? We're starting something new, but we're scared of that judgment, scared of someone saying, well, you know what? You don't really measure up here the way you did there. And that limits our ability, that kind of prevents us from going forward and trying it at all. I might have mentioned this in a previous live chat, but it's worth mentioning again here. Going back to that West Coast Swing event, I attended. I purchased a full pass for the entire weekend. I wanted to attend all the workshops. And for me, it was more about understanding the different instructor styles, right? Who would be a good instructor if I decided to pursue this further? And I entered into the competition. It was a beginner competition because that's the only level I would be qualified in West Coast Swing. If you're not familiar, you can't even enter into the higher level competitions until you get a certain number of points on the lower levels. So it's kind of like certain grades, right? Once you get a passing grade here, you can move on to the next level. I remember speaking to another salsa artist, another famous salsa artist, and she was considering going because she knew some of the West Coast swing artists as well. And she said she was confused by why I was going to take all these classes, and particularly when I said I'm going to compete. She's like, "Why would you do that? Like, you don't even know the dance." I'm like, "So?" And she said, "But people will see you and they'll see that you didn't win." And her approach was, "You've already been measured and held to this high level in salsa. By doing this in another dance, you're now going to be seen as a failure." And somehow that transfers over, right? It, to me, it didn't make sense because for me, I still have a very curious approach to life. I always want to try something new and discover myself in the process. And then whatever I discover about myself, I want to again extend it and transfer it to other areas. And how can I be better? And so I still did it, but I could understand her fear because if she had competed, she would probably rank like I did, right? I just advanced to semifinals. I didn't make it to the finals. Um, she would probably rank similar to me. But to her, it was a fear of being measured against what she's already accomplished. So that is sometimes one of the pressures that prevent us from trying something new or solving problems by using past approaches. But I'll tell you all, the one thing that's truly accelerated my personal growth and enhanced my relationships across the board is having a mindset of transference, of looking at the comfort zone as expandable and being able to extend it in any direction that I choose. Not that it happens on its own. It has to be an intentional choice. You have to first be aware of your skills, of your knowledge, of your experience, of your systems and your processes, of the qualities that you have. And then you have to see where else you can apply them. Where else do they apply? And then go back and revisit and say, how? How will I bring this experience to this area where I don't feel as experienced, where this is completely new to me? My dancing, recently I did a district conference workshop, was one of 3 presenters there in person. And every time I speak in person to a non-dance audience, I approach it the same way as when I'm giving a dance workshop. I've spoken in front of hundreds of people on big stages with packed rooms. Why did I stand up there and feel more confident? Because I knew the content. I know what I want to teach. I know the dance. And that presence and that confidence was a result of that knowledge. Now, when it comes to public speaking about other topics, I make sure I feel confident in my knowledge first. Right? That's what I take first. Like, understand what you're saying and know how to defend it if any question should arise. And then, as far as the presence is concerned, I've spent 20 plus years with a certain posture that exudes confidence, that is comfortable in my own skin. Why would I go up on stage in a new environment just because it's a new audience and say, well, I'm not sure of who I am? Of course I am. Right? So I'm going to transfer that posture knowledge, that body awareness to every environment. And the reason I get along well with people, random strangers, and I can strike up a conversation is the same thing that I do within dance. The reason I can play in dance and get creative in dance is by inserting certain qualities before something new or different. I smile. I make sure I can laugh something off that doesn't go well. And I do the same with random strangers. If I'm having a conversation, something didn't go smoothly or was misunderstood, I try to clarify or try to lighten the mood. But in every case with meeting somebody, I'm always making sure that I approach them with a smile, approach them with an energy that is warm, approach them with a posture that is open and welcoming, approach them with a tone that is not condescending, that is not timid, but open, right? And welcoming. That simple thing that I've gotten from dance and from so many dances, and it's reinforced because that's how that community is. I bring that to every other relationship, whether that is a relationship with a stranger for 5 minutes at a train station, or if it's a relationship that I'm trying to develop with anyone in work or outside of dance. Right? There's so much experience we have. If only we could hone into that. And instead of immediately focusing on the fear of doing something new, the way we felt, the fear when we did something new in the past, looking at how did we get good? How did we succeed? How did we find joy and happiness in the process? How do we find fulfillment in the process? And using those skills, those qualities, transferring those to the new experience greatly improves your ability to succeed at it, to accelerate your growth, and to feel a sense of personal fulfillment. Wade said, "You're 100% correct. Fear can stop and smash you completely. It can also make you rush the process and cloud you from what's transferable." Yep. There's a lot of efficiencies that we don't take across our lives. There are a lot of things that we do. The reason we are able to, as Michael mentioned, managing a family with kids and managing all these other projects, like there are a lot of systems and processes you already have in place to make all of that possible. So if you wanted to take on something new, you could go and dissect your systems and say, how can this be included in here? Right? If you did not have kids before, I don't know, I'm maybe speaking out of my whatever, but uh, speaking to people that have kids, like let's say some new hobby that you take on versus having a kid. And with a new hobby, you're like, oh, I want to try that. That's new. And you're like, it's so new. I don't know what to do with this. I don't think I can do it. So I'm going to just give up on it. But if you have a kid, that's not the approach you take. It doesn't matter how new it is or how foreign it is or how difficult it is. You figure it out. And the best way to do that is say, okay, now I have to manage this schedule. Well, how do I manage these other schedules? All right. The way I manage my own personal doctor's appointments, I throw them all on my calendar. Well, all of these appointments that I have to take my kid to are going to be in the calendar. This is how I prepare myself for work. I need time to prepare my meals. Well, now I have to do more meals for a kid. Well, how much time will that take? Add that to the same meal preparation time or create a new meal prep slot to take care of things for your kid. You can't get rid of, I mean, you could, but let's not think that, right? But you if you had a kid, I think that's actually a pretty decent example, right? Many new things that we approach in life, we feel like I can take it or leave it. But if you were to have a kid, it's not really a take it or leave it thing. It's a take it and keep it forever. So you wouldn't give up. You would figure things out, and you'd most likely be able to find solutions that have worked for you so far and apply them, transfer some of those skills over so that you could be a good parent and provide as much as you can and not burn out. So it's just an approach, different ways to think about our lives. And ultimately, if you are learning something new, try to look at it not as leaving your comfort zone completely, but just extending it. You're just putting feelers out there and you're saying, these are your roots. This is where you are. This is where you're strong. And now you're just extending your branches into a new area. And as you grow and you expand, your roots also get longer. So by extending and transferring your skills and applying them to new areas in life, to other areas in life, you strengthen those skills too. It's a win-win situation all across the board. There's nothing that you lose by doing this. Right? You're not closed-minded to a new experience. You're still open-minded to it, but you are bringing your best to that new experience. And by bringing your best, you are strengthening those qualities. And then now those qualities are even stronger to be referenced later for yet another new pursuit. Now that's my main message. And the reason for this was because I've had a few clients and students, both for public speaking and in dance, who really like brought all of this fear and lack of confidence and lack of presence to the equation. But when I hear about their lives and they talk about their lives, they are just filled with confidence. I mean, it's hard to ignore their presence. And yet, when they get on the dance floor or when they have to get up and speak, all of that's gone because they think it's completely new. It's a new compartment. When in reality, it's two compartments that are connected with a door, and there should be a free flow of information there. Yes, it's a new compartment, but there's a connection there. It's not that you have to leave and take a flight and then go and open that door. No, you're connected to it. So find your connections, find your extensions, identify what your strengths are, what your experiences are, what your systems are, what habits you have. How do you tackle your projects? How do you manage your time? How do you learn something new? How have you learned something new? What worked? What didn't work? What can you transfer over to make this new iteration, okay, of learning something new, trying something new, more efficient so that you can get the most out of it? There is no point in reinventing the wheel. There is no point in starting from scratch when you don't have to. You are doing yourself a disservice. And ultimately, you're doing everyone a disservice because the better you are, the better you are for other people too. So if you're not improving as quickly as you can, then everyone in your life does not get to benefit from your growth either. So, it's not just a personal quest, okay, of how can I be the best that I can. Understand that who you are directly and indirectly impacts the people around you, whether they're close relationships, coworkers, society in general. Okay, so better you can get to developing as a human being and exploring new things and being better at those things, everyone gets to benefit. And with that, I would like to conclude today's session. Actually, Wade, what are some essential skills and practices a kid can obtain that are transferable to adulthood? I have a nephew. Um, hmm. Well, school, just attending school has multiple qualities that can be applied to adulthood. Waking up at a certain time every day, that builds discipline. Making sure you're prepared by packing your lunch so you're not starving and losing your focus in the afternoon, making sure your books and all of those things are there with you. So that applies to adulthood. I mean, there are many times that I've run out of the house and said, oh man, I don't have this, I don't have that. But now I'm much, much better at that. When I travel, I know exactly what I need to take to make my travel and my trip better. Making sure you are prepared for whatever you have to present, whatever work you have to present. That translates into adulthood as well, because if you've got a homework assignment, you need to schedule time to work on that. You cannot come to school and say, oh, crap, crap, now I have to deliver this presentation. Well, I'll just work on it now in recess. No, you have to set aside time. And there are many things in our life as adults that we have to present, whatever that is, that requires preparation. And so as a kid, if you are doing projects for school, you understand time management, to set aside time to work on those things, to work on your deliverables. That applies to adulthood. And one really key thing there actually is, when kids come home from school, after they've done and attended to their responsibilities, after done their homework, they play. Right? They find that downtime to relax with friends, go and play sports in the park or whatever it is, play games. I'm not a big fan of video games, even though I was for a little bit with Nintendo Super Mario Brothers, but they have fun, right? They're not completely wrapped up in the work in school. They come home, they have time to relax. And that's something that I think we could all use as adults. Sometimes we are just wrapped up in all of the things we have to do, and we don't even take the time to take care of our health, to pamper ourselves, to just relax and do something that's not related to work and the projects that we have. So those are some essential skills and practices that a kid can take. And of course, also teamwork, right? I mean, many of the things that kids are doing in school require communication with other kids, require them to do projects together, and require effective communication with their teachers. These are all skills that they are working on and developing as kids that can 100% be applied to their lives as adults. Hi, Rhino. All right. And with that, I would like to conclude today's live chat. Thank you again for joining. This is live chat number 38. This is our monthly live chat. That means we have gone on for over 3 years now. That's crazy. Wow. So if you are here watching this live or watching the replay and you want to support the channel, the simplest, easiest, freest way to do it is hit subscribe, hit like, and share it with your friends. And if you're feeling generous and you want to get me a coffee for the next prep for my live chat, okay, how I prepare for my live chat is I've got a cup of coffee and I'm sitting there thinking about what are all the things that I want to talk about. If you would like to treat me to a coffee, you can click on the link below. And of course, if you want any further information about coaching, whether it is to develop your leadership skills or your public speaking skills or your dance skills, magnagopal.com. And if you have the time, check out the feedback form and leave your feedback. And of course, that is the perfect place for you to share any other personal questions or details that you would rather not put into public comments, that you would like me to know, or that you would like me to address in a future live chat. And with that, I shall see you all in a month. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and enjoy the weekend. And thank you for all of your support, and thank you for your engagement. And thank you for all the questions. Many of these live chats are a result of questions and comments that I've gotten on other platforms. So I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you trusting me to provide some sound advice and guidance. I will never, ever not be grateful for that. Have a great day, everybody. And the challenges of getting out of here.